I think we established who we were before we came into a relationship.
You know, but we had to be prayerful, and we had to go to the Lord, and we had a lot of miracles.
Well, I was single for a year and a half. We met online. I was on 6 different internet websites at the time for meeting people online. This was before Facebook too.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on my site, I just wanted one for me. I had gone to a really amazing healing retreat with my friends John and Narelle Canan. And the thing that I learned was that we all have a part in our marriage, and that because Christ has paid for those sins, we gotta just turn it over to Him. We really have to trust and let go. And when I learned to do that and allow myself to emotionally set my burdens and my hurt and my pain into the hands of Christ, I was healed. I was happy. I was at a healthy place of being able to recognize the kind of person that I wanted to have in my life. I put myself out there to have friendships. Having those friendships, I would decide what worked for me and what did not, especially on my journey of realizing that everything that happens is there for the betterment of me, because I chose that. You know, experiences in life will make a man bitter or better. And I add, it's a choice. It's my choice.
And I was in a position where I had just come from a second marriage, and I had to heal from all the divorces I was going through. So I had to take some time to heal, and I did that for a while. And
now, I also had a relationship I had to heal from, and it was in going to that retreat that my eyes and heart were open to realizing that I was basically going back into the same kind of relationship that I just left, because I had gotten addicted to that kind of trauma. So I was grateful to have, as we call it, a rebound relationship.
Yeah, because Stephanie talks a little bit about how a rebound isn't necessarily bad. It's a matter of how far you take it. But a rebound is something that you kind of almost have to have in an effort to get your feet back in the water again. Well, we both met on LDS Planet, and first thing we did was message each other.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's the liking and, ooh, I like you, I think I'll click go or whatever.
Yeah, swipe left
remember.
or swipe right.
Yeah.
But that was before the iPhone, so you had
Yeah.
to click like or...
And we were going to message, and you had a problem with your computer.
Yeah. In fact, on my profile, I basically explained to people that if you're reaching out to message me, instant message me, and it's not answering, don't think that I'm ignoring you. Don't think that I'm stuck up. It's just that my message box does not work. It worked for him. And that was the first thing out of my mouth was, how did you get through?
What I loved about Stephanie's profile was that she was a normal girl. Along with being beautiful, she was also funny. So she would have cute pictures of herself on there, but then she'd have silly pictures. Like she would put on a witch's hat, and she, dressed like a witch, and then she did other things where she like stuck her tongue out, and her kids were all sitting there looking at the webcam.
Yeah.
And I loved that, because with all the drama I had been through before, this is like drama-less. It's fun. I'm having a good time just looking at her and telling jokes. And
Kels's first message to me was unlike anything else, and he basically said, I really enjoyed your profile and I'd like to get to know you better. You seem like a really fun mom. So
And
Kels and I, we had a 3-hour conversation that night. We went from having fun to talking about our favorite music to spiritual concepts of what we wanted in a relationship, what we learned about our part in the divorce, which I thought was really impressive because I felt like we had much to talk about because we both recognize, a divorce happens because two people play in a game, right?
Yeah.
We each have our part, and he was willing to admit that, and so was I, and we established what we thought was important in our lives, and it was very complementary to the things that I'd set up and what I wanted in my life too. So the next step was you invited me to a very fancy restaurant.
Mm-hmm. The Roof at Salt Lake, downtown Salt Lake. And the Roof is not a cheap restaurant. And at first she goes, maybe we ought to go somewhere where we're not spending as much money, or like a commitment kind of level. And so we ended up just going to Panda Express instead. And so that way we could just talk, that's right.
Yeah. So we talked and knew that the date was over, and we both had decided that we definitely wanted to pursue another date. And towards the end, he gave me a hug.
Yeah.
And I realized too that in this hug, I didn't hug back. I had my arms like this, and he just wrapped his arms around me, and I felt like I was home. So he did not try to kiss me, but I distinctly remember when we were hugging, I memorized the smell of his cologne.
Yes.
And I memorized the outline of his chin right up above my eye line in case things worked out, and I'd always have that moment to treasure. We looked at the stars together, and then he walked me to my car, and we talked and talked and talked, and then he got tired, so he sat in the back seat, and we talked and talked and talked, and then
we Spider-Man kissed.
I will say that dating Kels was so easy because we were on the same levels. When you're getting into a relationship, the games that you have to play, man, I feel so bad for those darn games because somebody likes someone better than the other person, or someone's talking to someone and the jealousy comes up. And I remember when we prayed together that I just fell in love with his openness to his relationship with Heavenly Father. And we decided also to start reading scriptures together.
My oldest son was not thrilled.
He was 15.
Yeah. And here he is having to deal with his dad going through his divorces and stuff. And obviously he acted out his frustration. So by the end of our time in Las Vegas, we had decided that maybe we needed to break up because my son was being difficult. And so we just decided, well, Steph, we're going to have to break up. So we're driving back. She's not happy. I'm not happy. But we get home from our Vegas drive, and we're already sad. We realize we're going to be breaking up. And so we get to her car, and it won't start. She ended up having to stay with me overnight. And during this period of time in which we have to wait to get her car working, we decide to have some conversations about this breakup we're going to do. And then by the end of that conversation, and before we even got the car fixed, we went, what are we doing? Maybe we shouldn't break up. And so we took some I don't know if we fasted after that, or if that was when we did.
It was fasting afterwards.
Yeah, we fasting afterwards to stay together.
To see if we were on the right path.
Yeah.
To see if even dating was acceptable. of our journey.
So we realized that my son was not going to be happy with whoever I dated. And it became a good lesson in fatherhood, parenthood with children on do they run your life or do you control your own life? My concept was, I love my kids, but one day they're not here anymore. They got their own spouse. They got their own person that they're going to love.
That's exactly right. And we both agreed on that what we choose to do is what's more important than whether or not we're liked by a teenager or not.
So we knew that storms were coming, and so we made the decision to stick together. And then on July 1st, we stood at the hill, and right before the fireworks came, I asked Stephanie to marry me. And then that's why fireworks in summer are like a jewel for us, because that's how we remember our dating.
Moon, Frank Sinatra.
And of course she said yeah. We actually had a date for October 21st to get married. But August came around. We just decided we're just going to get married. We're just going to do it.
Yeah.
So on August 11th, we called the Justice of the Peace that morning and just said, hey, let's do it. He said, sure. And so he met us in his backyard, and his wife and his daughter were the witnesses.
Yeah.
And then he married us. And then we went to somebody else's wedding reception that night and didn't say anything to anybody. It was our giddy little secret for a while.
It was beautiful. We teased about taking a present for ourselves.
Yeah, we were like, it's our wedding too.
So we've been married for 15 years now. And it has been a beautiful experience, mostly because I think we established who we were before we came into a relationship. We were healthy. We had our values. We were able to communicate well and be on the same page. We established our foundation.
And one of the blessings of our relationship, we blended a family, which is one of the hardest things to do. But we knew that in the midst of all that, getting married and getting divorced and getting remarried is like living through a hurricane. And I've lived through 2 hurricanes in my lifetime. You board up the windows, you brace yourself, you have enough food, you have enough water, and you just sit and you ride it out. And when it's over, then you have to be the strong one to go out and pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
And that's the way we looked at having to go through divorces and having to be remarried. We have to be the strong ones. But finally, we just kind of decided, and I know my bishop at the time liked Stephanie. And when I told him that I was going to marry her, it was like, oh, good. It was like, I got an approval. And it's like, oh, because we like her, It's just sort of a, And ever since then, I've noticed that everybody who meets Stephanie, they like her, So it's like, oh, that was a good decision. And I know that was the best decision I've made in this century. And so I'm thrilled. And but it was at first a little tricky, but we had to be prayerful, and we had to go to the Lord, and we had a lot of miracles and a lot of arrows pointing in that direction, that it was just, this is where you belong. This is where you need to be.